Hello and welcome to Henrico State Park, the largest state park in Northern California. You are looking at just a small portion of the 87,000 acres of park, and what makes this particular view special is that this was taken during Backcountry weekend, which gives the public access to the deeper recesses of the park that aren't easily accessible, so this is not a view that we can get any other time of the year. It's a 30-minute drive from the highway just to get to the camp area, and you are driving through cattle pastures with amazing views. I definitely used my lower gears on the downhill. And even though it's all fire roads to the campsite, you do need four-wheel drive to tow through the very many creek crossings en route. And I did manage to bottom out and bend the bottom of my jack, even though it was pulled all the way up. On this campout, I tested out a new hay bag, and it worked out great at keeping the flakes contained in the trailer instead of my truck bed, since we needed the extra space for supplies in the bed. And there's a link in the description if you're interested. We got a great spot set up at camp, and even though they did supply water for the horses, I always like to bring water in my trailer as well. This was our first horse camping trip, tent camping with my daughter, and it went really well. I might do a video on that at some point. You can see here there were only about 6 or 7 of us horse camping, and we had a separate camping area. Then a couple hundred yards down the road was where all the cyclists and the hikers were tent or car camping. It was a really well-run weekend, again, thanks to all the hardworking volunteers. I am really proud of Fame. He not only drank from the supplied water troughs without issue, but this was the first time that he drank from the puddles along the trail. And he did a great job of not rushing through the puddles like he sometimes does out of nervousness. And we definitely got a lot of chances to practice that since there were so many creek crossings. Oh, what a good puppy. Yes, I know that was scary and you did great. We also got a chance to practice moving over for slow traffic on the main fire road, which has never really been an issue for him, but it's always good to keep those skills maintained. So once we branched off the main road onto the single track trails, I really became aware of the fact that we were in the backcountry. It gets super quiet. I loved seeing the wildflowers and the plants that I don't usually see. One of the things that I am working on with Fame right now is our downhill, really trying to get him to shorten his stride, sit back on his haunches, and as he goes downhill, he's not putting so much weight on his front legs when he does that, and it really makes for a much more comfortable and balanced ride. But it is definitely something that I am having to actively manage him toward until he can start doing it on his own a little bit more consistently. Another thing that we worked on was trotting and conditioning. This was a fabulous place to condition because the fire roads created a lot of really consistent, visible footing. There was some incline, so it was good for working those hind end muscles. And I absolutely loved that I didn't have to worry about hikers or cyclists because we were just kind of out in the middle of nowhere. And the entire weekend, I would say we encountered maybe 2 or 3 other people on all the trail rides that we did, so it was just absolutely heavenly for me. I actually had intentions of trying a limited distance 25-mile endurance ride with Fame in the fall, and unfortunately a few months after this campout he did get a mild stifle injury, so we spent most of the summer just rehabbing and taking it easy. Yeah, good boy, stretch. So here I am, just also working at teaching him to stretch his neck out on command and really giving him periods of time where he knows that he's free to really drop his head and extend that out and kind of loosen up his back and really stretch out. We did encounter a few places where the trail was a bit sketchy. In this case, the trail had eroded, but thankfully we could climb around it. It's funny, the camera actually doesn't show how steep or narrow the trail became very well, but especially because Fame has such huge feet, it was definitely not something that I wanted to chance, so we just kind of rode up and around it, up to the side there. So in addition to places like Mustang Peak, where you can get a lot of elevation gain in a single ride, there are also loops out to smaller ponds and even to a larger lake, and we actually didn't make it to the larger lake this particular trip, But there are a handful of really nice rides from the campground site. And if you're someone who likes to get lost out in the wilderness and go on long rides, or if you're just trying to condition for just general conditioning or for endurance, this is a really great camp out to take advantage of that. Again, like I said, you've got miles and miles of trail. Most of it is really well maintained. There is a lot of fire road, but then it branches off into some of these smaller single track places, and you don't encounter a lot of people like you might closer into the city. I will have more GoPro footage from this camp out that I'll be posting to the channel kind of as like an ASMR video that doesn't have narration. So for those of you who really want to get into the experience like you're riding fame yourself in the backcountry, definitely keep an eye out for that video. Feel free to leave any questions that you have below. Really appreciate you watching and look forward to seeing you next time.